Hi everybody. This week we are going to discuss about the last few remaining topics from this chapter, that is molecular basis of inheritance. One is regulation of gene expression. That means we have studied about promoters, operators, structural genes, terminators, sequence that we have studied. In the structure of mRNA and in the structure of DNA. So how they are controlled and regulated. This is what we are going to discuss this week. Apart from that, we will be discussing about the application of this DNA. One is the Human Genome Project, and the last one, that is the DNA fingerprinting technology. So these things, and all these three topics are questions are asked in the CBSE examinations and other examinations also, directly and indirectly both. So all these three topics are very important, so you must understand it very clearly. So I recommend to read the textbook first, then you go to the notes, so you will understand both the things. So in the regulation of gene expression, what we are discussing is how one particular gene is functioning. So we have studied about the promoters, operators, structural genes, and the terminator sequence, but we have not discussed how they are functioning. So in 1960s, after the discovery of DNA and all, scientists were tried to study about how these DNAs are operating themselves, what are required for DNAs, and how the system is working. So in 1961, uh, two scientists from France, that is Jacob and Monod, they came out with a study that is published in the Science magazine. So what they have found out is, they have found out how the DNA is functioning. For this, what they used is, they have used, they call it as an operon. And in this operon means it is functioning in a sequence. That's the meaning of operon. And they have found out, they have used a very commonly used bacteria that is very much important in the studies of biological functioning, that is E. coli. And from this E. coli, they have studied in such a way that they know very well that E. coli are responsible for using lactose, because it is present inside our stomach also. How they are using this, how the DNA E. coli is using this lactose in hand, how they are behaving in the presence and absence of the lactose. So they have found out it, and they have found out the sequence also that is present inside the E. coli system. So when the lactose is present, what is happening? When the lactose is absent, what is happening? These three things they have found out, and they have published this in paper, in a research article. And for this, they got a Nobel Prize, because if I know the sequence of a particular DNA, which is useful, or it can be a viral, or it can be an bacterial. So if they are infecting any source, so if we know how they are infecting, what are the genes activated, how they are activated, with these thing knows, we can stop that infection very before. But still, after 1916s also, still the research is going on in this regards. So whatever the operon they have found out, they called it as lac operon, because it is related to lactose. So they call it as lac operon. And after the further studies, they have found out that there are two types of operons are present. For one to activate, we need a source from outside, that is lactose from outside, and they call that particular operon as inducible operon. That means this operon will be active only when the source is present. And they have found out another operon also, in which they call it as the tryptophan operon, and tryptophan is a protein, amino acid, which is responsible for the protein synthesis. And they found out the same operon in bacteria, that is in E. coli. They found out that when the tryptophan is given through the body, or when we are taking food and food is digested, when the tryptophan is present, that tryptophan will not be produced within the bacteria by self, and they call it as repressible operon. So there are two types of operons. One is inducible, that means if the source is there, they will activate. Second is repressible, when the source is present, the gene will be inactive. So like that we have two types of operons are there. These are only few examples. According to this operons, there are many names, histidine operon, like that we have many operons are present, and still new operons are added to these list, inducible and repressible operon. So the basic one we have to study. And what is happening in the lac operon? And when the question is asked about lac operon, you have to mention with the diagram. If the diagram is not there, and if we are not named it properly, the sequence, because that genome sequence we know, since we know the genome sequence, it is recommended that we have to write the genome sequence as it is. So in lac operon, what is happening, and this is the diagram of a simple genome, that is simple gene that is responsible for doing the lac operon. If you know this diagram, then you can write it by self. So if you see this, so genes are arranged in a linear portion. That means it is having a promoter, it is having an inducer, again promoter, then operator, then XYZ, XYA, or X. Some books are given, some are given as XYA, some are given as ZYA, like that both are given. So here what is happening, and there are two parts are given, when the inducer is absent and when the inducer is present. When the inducer is absent, what is happening, an mRNA will be produced, which is called as a repressor mRNA, and this repressor mRNA will go and bind to the operator. When it is go and binded to the operator, automatically the gene will never get activated. It's a common thing. That means operators are not free for the functioning. And in the next part, it is given that in the presence of an inducer, that means if lactose is present. If lactose is present, same way the mRNAs will be produced, but this particular mRNA protein that is produced by the inducer will be blocked. We produced by the inducer will be blocked by the lactose. So when it is blocked by the lactose, what will happen? mRNA will never go, and the repressor protein will never go and bind to the operator. So when it is not go and bind to the operator, the further sequence of the gene started activated. That means they started to, that means DNA polymerase will come and bind, RNA polymerase will come and, not DNA polymerase, RNA polymerase will come and bind, mRNAs will be synthesized. When these mRNAs are synthesized, they started to use this lactose from outside. That means translation transcription process will takes place there. And but since it is in bacteria, there will be no splicing, that's all. And what are these genes? That means this ZYA genes, what they are doing. So each gene is having a different function. So that means one is responsible to allow the lactose inside, one is responsible to give it as a structure, give a structure to it by adding some, and one converts into a product which is useful for the bacteria. That is what it is. So the first gene, that is in ZYA, the first gene that play is Y gene, and Y gene is a permease gene. That means when that Y gene is activated, almost normally all the genes will be activated together, but Y gene will go first, because if Y gene has not gone first, They won't allow, bacterial plasma membrane will never allow the inducer, that is lactose, to come in. Once the lactose is come in, then another compound, another A will start to do its function, that is transacetylation, and by the action of Z gene it will be converted into a beta galactidase enzyme, beta galactidase, and it will be used by the bacteria for the synthesis of proteins or as an energy compound. This is what is taking place inside the E. coli system. So when the lactose is present, so this is very easy also and very interesting part. But when they are asked this in examination, you should not change the sequence of this gene. If the gene sequence is changed, it is considered as mutation, so there may be other change. So we are not responsible to change, not authorized to change the sequence of the gene, and we are not authorized to change each loci of gene, that is ZYA, what is they are going to synthesize. We are not allowed to change that also, and the product also. So exactly you have to write like this for the examination, because it is studied accordingly, the system is studied accordingly. That's the reason. And next one, that is the Human Genome Project. This Human Genome Project means the concept is very simple. Now we have running with the brain mapping from 2015. So the Human Genome Project is the one single project in which all the countries are added together and they have contributed, but very few countries played a major role inside that. And the role of this Human Genome Project is study the genome of human. That means what are the different types of genes present, what is the location of these genes. These genes are responsible for synthesizing which type of protein, and when we know which type of protein it is synthesizing, if there is any damage happen to the gene, or if we can detect the damage of a gene in the young ages or even in the embryo, and if we replace that particular gene with some other gene, useful genes, so the human will be free from that particular disease, especially deadly diseases like Alzheimer's, then chronic and acute diabetes, those things, genetic diseases we can, and Down syndrome, Klinefelter syndrome, those things we can be avoided. And this project was launched in 1990s by Watson. Watson was the head of this project, and United States, Japan, Russia, Germany, and England, including France, some scientists are from France also, they all came together and they have studied the human genome. So in 1990 they have started this project, and first it was 100% funded by the government, United States government, coming from the National Institute of Health, NIH. They have funded this, but after that private companies also started to came into this. Then after 1996 or 1997, there was a fight was there in between the government and the private. That means everybody will accepting in, that means there's a competition was there, who will come out first with the draft of human genome. But actually the draft of the human genome was came out in 2003, and it was given by a private company. Give that sequence, and later that with that sequence, draft means it is not confirmed, but they know that these are the total number of genes, so and so functioning, not completely, still the work is going on. Now they have studied about 99% of the human genome they have studied, and the few 1% will remain. There will be a change according to the area where we are living, according to our environmental factors. Those type of studies are still it is adding on. And now in 2015 the government has started with the brain mapping. That means now they have started to study the human brain. which part of brain is responsible for how many types of neurons are there. So it is another big project after the human genome project. So we are expecting a result by 2025 or 2030. So this is the thing. And what is the goal of this human genome project? Human genome project, what is the goal is they want to know how many genes are functional. So when they found out the complete human genome, there are a billion bits of DNA genomes are present, but they have found out that only 30,000 or 40,000, roughly around 60,000 genes are functional. Others are junk DNAs. We call it directly as function junk. They don't know any function about it. That means they are not active in any transcription or translation process, but they supports, and they have found out that if the junk DNA is not there, the transcription and the translation process will not be 100% accurate. So now they are studying is this junk DNA plays some role inside that. And next one is store this information as a database. So database means each and every person is having a unique DNA sequence, so it will be given to you in the form of a pen drive or something. That means in future if anybody is having some problem, medical issues, so the doctors will be using that your DNA to study. Then it is used to solve the legal issues, ethical issues, those things will be solved. So this is the one of the main thing they have used. And another thing is that methodology, which type of method they have used. So each and every company, government companies and the private companies, they have come out with the different methods, and finally they have used a tool known as bioinformatics. Bioinformatics means by using computers they have solved this issue very fast. Before that, if they want to sequence a genomic DNA, they have to write each and 10 billion bits of code with hand. So it takes very long time, and this particular method was derived from by Sanger's method. We call it a DNA sequencing method. It's a very old method, and we need it was very laborious. Even a minor error happened, you have to start all the experiment from the beginning. That means once you started the experiment, it will take almost 5 to 6 days to get the proper result. That was, now it is only hours. So it is 100% automated in these years. So they have used different methods means some thought that they will cut the human genome into different pieces, and they will take inside to a plasmid, and they will study one by one. That means they will transfer to different parts of the world and they will study. Some said that we will make a sequence, roughly some sequence, because it is DNA. So DNA is double stranded. So first what they will do is they will take a particular sequence of DNA, they will cut with restriction enzymes, which are called as molecular scissors, or they will use the DNA helicase enzyme so that the bonding between the strands will be broken. And when the strands is broken, they synthesize adenine and thymine sequence by themselves, and they will add to this, and it is fluorescent tagged. So wherever they go and bind, that means if adenine is there on that, if they found out a sequence with thymine, when they go and bind, it will be binded. This was the method, but this method was not sufficient to study a genome in human, which is very huge and very big. So scientist says that whatever the genes that is present inside the chromosome 43, 46 chromosome, so we can add it one by one. If we have made like a thread, it will cross. We can move between Earth and the Moon 7 times. That much big it is. So it is not possible to study with these traditional methods. So they used computers. That means they use softwares. With the basic ideas, they asked the software companies to develop a software to study for this purpose, and finally they came to success. That means, and most of the work of this type was did by private companies. Private companies was funded with huge money, and they did this. And the plasmid which they have used inside the human genome project, that means they will cut a small sequence of DNA gene and they will put inside a plasmid. Since the human genome is big, the traditional plasmids that is present inside the bacteria will not work out. So they used big plasmids vectors like BAC and YAC, that is bacterial artificial chromosome and yeast artificial chromosomes they have used. And by this they did this work, and by 2013 they said that 99.99% of the human genome was studied, and that 0.1% or 1% is depends upon the area where we are. So with that the human genome project is completed. So you don't want to study everything, but you have to study why they did human genome project, and what are the methods they have commonly used in the human genome project, and why they have used, and what is bioinformatics, and what are the salient features of human genome project. That means how many millions of nucleotides are present inside the humans, that is 31,064.7. that means 32,064 million nucleotide bases are present inside a human, and which is having the maximum number of bases, and which is having the least, that means which is having the maximum gene and which is having the least gene. Maximum was found in chromosome 1 and the least was found in Y chromosome. So these type of things you have to study. You don't want to study the methods and the materials what they have used, and only thing is that they can ask these MCQ questions. That means which was a private company, which are the countries that came to in between. And with this human genome project, one technique which was earlier discovered before than the human genome project it was discovered, that particular technique is known as DNA fingerprinting. And this DNA fingerprinting become one of the most advanced tool to study something unique inside the human. Especially they started to use application of DNA fingerprinting in solving the crime scene issues, paternal issues, maternal issues, all these things they started to use the DNA fingerprinting. But DNA fingerprinting technique was discovered very before than beginning, where DNA fingerprinting was first reported in 1983, but the human genome project was begun in 1990s and end up completely in 2013-14 like that. So this DNA fingerprinting technology become very much important after studying the human genome project. And what is this human DNA fingerprinting? DNA means the deoxyribose nucleic acid. Fingerprinting means uniqueness. That means each and every person is having a unique set of DNA. It will not be, almost all the humans have 98% similar DNA or 99% similar DNA, all the humans inside in this world, but 1% of that DNA is different, and they use that 1% different DNA to solve the crime, maternal and the paternal issues. And this 1% different DNA that is present in a particular area known as satellite DNAs. So in first year when you have studied about the structure of chromosomes, different types of chromosome, metacentric, submetacentric, that time you have studied that a bulb like thing or a bulged area on the top of the chromosome, that particular area is known as, particular chromosome is known as satellite DNAs. And there is still an argument is going on how these satellite DNAs are formed, but many of the scientists believe that the satellite DNAs are formed because of DNA polymerase enzyme is not active in some areas, that area got bulged when the replication was taking place, and that area was bulged, and that area become a unique tag for each and every person. That is what they are considering. And inside this satellite DNA, there are special sequence are there, very special sequence. It will be very unique to each and every person, because since the paternal DNA is there, so the whatever the sequence that is forming inside a human, it is unique. So each and every sequence they have unique, and these sequence are repeated in a particular, it is not repeated in all the chromosomes or in all the person in the same form, but is repeated in a different forms. So they named those particular sequence that is present inside this satellite DNA as VNTS, that is variable number tandem repeats. That means that sequence may be 2 in first chromosome of a person, and that sequence may be 3 in the first chromosome of another person, that possibilities. So with this they studied that, and they call this as polymorphism. Polymorphism means, poly means many, morphism means different. So many difference we can see by this inside this human species. And this particular thing was first found or seen in a gel or under a UV by a scientist known as Alec Jeffreys, and he found out that each and every person, this particular sequence is changing, and that particular sequence, if it is changing, and he took the, for example, if they have taken my blood and isolated the DNA, and if they found out a sequence like this, a very specific sequence like this, and what they did is they will collect the blood sample from the parents, father and mother, and they will see whether the same sequence is present inside this father and mother. If the same variable number repeats are present from in the father and mother, or from a father or from a mother, by this they can solve the paternal or maternal issues. And here in one diagram they have given, this is the complete source. For example, from the paternal chromosome one particular sequence will come, and from the maternal chromosome one sequence will come. They have used the chromosome number 7. Both red letter marked is a paternal chromosome and maternal chromosome, and in chromosome 2 also there will be a sequence, and in chromosome 16, chromosome 7, 3, 2, all the chromosomes will be having this type of satellite DNAs and VNTS. So now the question comes is, who is the child of this particular person? So that is a question. So in order to solve this question, what they will do is they will collect the DNA sample from the parent and from the culprit or from the issued person. If there are issues running inside a court, that means this is my child. If two parents are coming like that, the court will order for DNA fingerprinting. So when the samples are collected, so they will collect from the both the parents. Two parents are there. They will collect from that, and they will collect from the child, and they will see for this tandem repeats. So if the same tandem repeats are present from any of the parents are present on the child chromosome, so they will be the biological parents of that particular child. And if you see here, you can see that. So there the DNA from the individual A and individual B both are there, and from the parent also they have taken. After taking that, they cut into pieces by using the restriction enzyme, and they run on a gel. when they ran on a gel, and you see how the bands are formed. C and D are matching, but C and A are not matching. Since they are not matching, C and A, there is no relation, but there is a relation between C and D. So from this we can come to know that whether they are paternal or from the crime scenes. So this is what called as DNA fingerprinting technology. So it is very much important for the examination point of view. So please read the textbook, and I attach notes also. Go through that. If there is any doubt, ask or comment, or use WhatsApp to communicate with me. Thank you.